we'll be talking about the state of everything. The state of everything, it seems that we needed a moment whereby we're just asking ourselves the questions in terms of where are we, and saying, dear Mr. President, how about you listen to us on 1, 2, 3? And to join us to help us out with that conversation, Justina Wamae, who is the founder of the Inatuhusu movement, is here with us this hour. And she's joined by Mark Bichachi, who at this moment is sitting down, who's a communication strategist, and we'll be having that conversation. Good morning.
Morning.
Justina, how are you?
Great.
Uh-huh.
How are you?
Very well.
Mm-hmm.
Good to see you.
Me too.
We want, every time we want to say former. No, this is what you're doing now. Inatuhusu.
Yes.
Okay. Mark Bichachi, good morning.
Morning. How are you?
You are here.
Yes.
Good to see you too.
Long time.
Indeed, very long time. CT, as usual, is going to welcome you with today's proverb.
Our proverbs for the whole of this week have been from the country of Uganda, and they'll continue being from Uganda until tomorrow. Tomorrow will be the last day of the proverbs from Uganda.
Okay.
And then we will move to the country of Tanzania.
Oh, yay.
Yes, we will. Okay? A foolish person shouldn't make you foolish.
Did you tell that to Kenyans before they voted?
Well, they are yet to vote again in 2027. Okay. So the opportunity isn't lost.
Clearly, this means something to you, Justina.
It does, actually. When I had the proverb in the morning, I remembered, a proverb, Nawahenga and musicians, they're all the same. Yeah. So, in this day, one of our musicians, DNA, sang and said, kaa mbali na mimi usiniambukize ujinga. So what he was meaning that today I want a foolish person close to him, he might ambukiza. What is ambukiza? Infect him with ujinga. But I think it calls for you to have a mind of your own, for you to decide, for you to know what is right and what is wrong. So in as much as you're around the fools, just use your brains. Yes.
How do you determine? Perhaps it's you who's the fool. And because of your foolishness, you think other people are the ones who are foolish.
Foolish, true.
Yes.
Actually, it's true. But maybe feedback. You'd know whether you're foolish from feedback.
Somebody would say something.
Yeah,
or one would hope.
Yes.
Mark, what about you?
The thing is about foolish people is they're usually more brave and brazen than those who are wise. Unfortunately, wisdom has the unfortunate effect of reducing your bravery because you know the exact risks that are there. To put that into a political perspective, it means that most of the time people who are willing to run for office are those who are less likely to know the challenges of that office.
What are you saying, Mark? You're already saying things without saying them.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay, I get
generally speaking, it is the people who have less insight that are more likely to take jobs which they're incompetent at doing.
All right, then. Okay. Several things have happened swiftly. Several things have happened over the last 1 month. And there were rumblings of the same, right? And we're looking at a situation where we hear that many of us are crying. Many folks are saying, we can't get through this. It looks a little bit difficult. But look, we've also been given the other side of it whereby, we've been told we're trying to get out of something here. And in order for that, and I always liken it to antibiotics. You feel sick, you feel yucky, you go, you get a test done. They've told you the infection is there. We're going to give you these antibiotics. You must take them for 7, 10, 14 days, right? But you're going to feel worse before you feel better. Okay? We're putting in this medicine. Government is putting in this mechanism. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you're going to have to take this medicine for a period of time. 7 days for an antibiotic, maybe 7 months for government intervention. But you're going to feel worse. You will feel the weight of this thing on your body. You'll feel, I thought I invited a better solution to this problem. But you will feel worse before you'll feel better. But once you start to feel better and you complete the course of the medication, then you get back to your health. don't like that explanation? Justina, what is your bird's eye view of the situation in the country today?
Politics is about expectations. So when the president, let me speak about the president. When he was campaigning, he made us think that, one, he was the brains behind the presidency. Two, he has the experience. He's been in politics for close to 30 years. So when he was saying, nikiweka Biblia chini. So the expectation of the ordinary Kenyan was that clearly the dynasties are the ones who are messing up this economy. So when he comes back and we are told, no, this is antibiotic, we have to take it. Guys are wondering, if you knew we were sick, you wouldn't have told us all these things you're telling us. So I think he should do what Olesepit said. Sometimes you promise people, but when the reality hits you, just tell Kenyans these are the priorities. But are we really certain that we are sick? No, we are not. Look at the report by the Control of Budget. 3 billion travels, 2.8 State House coordination billion, All this money is going to non-priority spending. So I think we are not sick from the point of government, those ones in government, those ones who are administering government. We are not sick. There's so much money. That's why they're spending the way they want.
But then we saw the president just the other day say, look, all this thing and has to stop. You have to reduce this thing by at least 10%. If there's no priority for you to travel, don't travel. Reduce your spending across ministries and departments by 10%. If you don't need to be going to America, you're not going. If we're going to make sure that those numbers reduce significantly, won't you say that that's him seeing that something is actually being done about the situation?
He's seeing it when it's too late. Clearly, 3 billion has already been spent. What happened from the first million, the 10 million, the 100 million, Clearly, he has to accept that money has been spent, but it's a good thing. He also needs to, lead by example. He's traveling every day, from Nairobi to where. And then the sad thing is this, I wonder why CSs, PSs, everyone follows the president, and these are people who are given fuel allowance. So he has to also change. During COVID, they were doing Zoom and everything. Why not go back to what is cost effective if for real he's committed to cutting down and non-priority spending?
Okay, now while Justina breathes, Mark, what do you think about what's going on?
First, to give some scientific basis for what I said before, it's called the Danny Kruger effect. Okay. But that being said, the beauty about governance is we have a prophetic document that we turn into law. It's called the budget. Okay. Now, when you have a budget, it tells you exactly what is going to happen in that financial year. Therefore, the cure that has been procured for us does not portend for us any solution to inflated prices, because we have taxed everything that we could tax. So, for example, when we put an extra 8% tax on fuel, there is no sunset for that 8% tax, and there is no point where the tax will not increase, because according to government, the beauty of a percentage is that the bigger the figure, the bigger the percentage you get. And therefore, the more we pay for fuel, the more taxes the government gets. So the incentive for government is to get more taxes, especially from things of fuel, like fuel and VAT. Secondly, you've got the other issue that we need to be very aware of, that we have other performance indicators in this country that we want to ignore. And I worked for the Capital Markets Authority, so I should have some experience in what I'm about to say. The Nairobi Stock Exchange was the worst performing in the world in the last calendar year. That, for me, is quite prophetic. The dollar has appreciated woefully against the shilling. That's quite prophetic. But also, when you're being given a solution in terms of medication, and let's say you have malaria, you must look at the tablet you're being given to see whether it is effective in curing your disease. In which case, if they give you Panadol, your malaria will remain. Now, unfortunately for us, the prescription is Moses Kuria, Aisha Jumwa, et al. Now, I leave it to my listeners to tell me whether they think Moses Kuria has the capacity to cure the malaria that is the Kenyan economy.
He's not alone. Is he alone?
I'm just picking one of the 20 or so solutions. Yeah, Mudavadi is another one.
Okay. So are you saying then that those who've been put in the driver's seat to drive some of these economic strategies for development then are not capable?
Well, I am not the one to say it. Let me quote the President of the Republic of Kenya when he was signing the performance contracts, where he said he is generally smarter than all his CSs and PSs, and he followed up by a reshuffle. So I'm just quoting him. Not my words, his.
It's your turn to take a deep breath.
No, I'm just looking at Mark and I'm wondering, okay, so now, look, Justina going to come in a minute, because here we are saying that the situation in the country is in a certain way. I don't think anybody can deny that. That folks are struggling a little bit more than they were just even 3 months ago. Not even a little bit more, quite significantly so. You say there's nothing left to tax? Well, there are plans to tax even more, my friend.
Yes.
It's very possible that every day there will be a new thing that somebody comes, and we've been told now that we need to find out exactly the details of that. But if you're a small business, if you hold money and you hold it USD for some time, they can even send you to jail. Release this money into the economy. There's no telling what could be taxed in the future. But can we look at this as ways in which to salvage a situation, or are we looking at it as an intent to make sure that the people of Kenya are kept down? What should we be looking at it as? Because the truth of the matter is, this administration is here at least for the next 3.5 years, 4 years. It is not going anywhere. And if the situation is going to get more depressed, more stressed, what is to be done? What is to be suggested?
Speaking about the proposal on the forex, the MP who is proposing if you'll be taken to jail if you're holding.
The MP for Rongo.
And I hope you should bring him here so that we understand what he wants to say. But it goes to show that the political class has not defined our ideology, so to speak. Are we a communist? Are we right, where we expect government to have a serious intervention, or are we left? We are confused, because saying that we're going to control how people spend the dollars or they release it to the market is more of a leftist idea, where government is really, really involved in business. Yet we say that Kenya is a capitalistic state where we let market forces work. So the political class has to decide. Are we going to run a leftist state or a rightist? Now,
Justina, you do know you're complicating a very simple issue.
How?
Well, you have brought intellectualism to a subject which is fairly banal. I mean, how does someone think that you are going to sort out the foreign currency or foreign exchange rate issues, or the value of the shilling vis-a-vis the dollar, by suddenly introducing a bill like that? How?
What he's hoping to do is to have more of government controlling. And that is what China does.
Actually, where I'm going with this is this. When politicians specifically say things,
yes,
very little that they say should be taken at face value. Very little. There's always an agenda. Either he's trying to present himself as somebody who understands something, which he clearly doesn't, okay? Or he's trying to please someone. But you see, he's got airtime now. Because he has proposed it, we are discussing it.
Yes.
And his name will come up continuously. This economy can't be fixed by somebody simply making utterances. Whether it is the president's advisor on economic affairs, whether it is the president himself. No. The things that need to be done in order for this economy to work as it should are known to people who actually control these aspects of our economy within the ministries that they know. They know exactly what needs to be done.
So the question that's overriding for many Kenyans today then is, why is that not happening? Why is that not being implemented?
Exactly, because I was going to say that we need to look at the role of career civil servants. We need to look at professionalism and meritocracy. 6 days ago, Kipra, they released a report and they were giving their suggestions on what can be done on the cost of living. And I don't think this government is listening to them. And then we also need to also enhance the role of control of budget. Make the Office of Parliamentary Budget Office independent. Let those people who have the expertise, who are, technocrats in that area to advise government. True, the president may want to come with his own economic advisor. True. But there are these people who have been in ministry since they were 20. They have expert experience and all that. Why are they not being taken seriously? I think that is where the problem is. And sometimes you bite the bullet and say, okay, fine, we thought you were wise, but these guys are wiser. Let us see professionalism really coming out to help this country where we are. I think that's the only solution. So we call for integrity in politics and accountability.
I read something, Mark, just a couple of days ago where it said that why we Kenyans, everybody, must give the president time. Number one, he increased the National Youth Service intake to 20,000 people annually to provide more opportunities for young people. Check. 2, employed 50,000 teachers. Yeah, okay. Whether you want to talk about them being interns for 1 year, that's not your issue. 50,000 teachers. Check. Recruited 3,000 interns through the PSC. Check. Employed 100,000 community health volunteers. We saw that just the other day. We even saw the kits. Check. 50,000 businesses established from Hustler Fund loans. Check. Number 6, 300,000 jobs were created for the construction of affordable houses. So, I mean...
let me just say that there's a lot to celebrate about this government. The honest truth is the housing project, if it is established, will be a boon for the people of Nairobi, most especially because the more affordable housing there is, the more likely your landlord is to reduce rent. If you have the mortgage refinance company working, then your mortgages will go down. Yes, those things are clear. In fact, as someone who recently visited ICU, I cannot wait to see the universal healthcare program actually work. So there's good to this country. The problem here is, and I'll pick it exactly where Madam Wamae has left it, the issue of integrity and accountability. That's where the problem is. Because many of the projects we are talking about are not having the impact that Kenyans desire because look at how much the budget for buying cars has gone up. Okay, look at how much our debt, the proportion of debt and how fast we are borrowing has gone up. Look at how much taxation has gone up without a comparable increase in the state of development, foreign direct investments, and things like that. The problem here is this, and I liked the title of today's show. It said, "Dear Mr. President." I think our government has the best ability to set goals. Our execution is what is wrong. To quote one of my favorite shows, which ended on the BBC, called Top Gear, they used to say, ambitious but rubbish. That's what we are doing as a country. We've got very good plans. I love the plans that we have, but the execution is what is not there. Look at, for example, a supposed reduction in the cost of edible oils, right? Unless you live in Ruiru, according to the former CS of that particular docket, the price of edible oils has gone up,
yes,
except in Ruiru. Now, that brings me to the other point, that is blatant market distortion. And that is very dangerous. And I'll tell you how dangerous it is. If, for example, the minister in charge of energy in the United States of America had the gall to stand up and say that the dollar value of a barrel of oil is going to increase by another 30% in the next 6 months, nobody will sell oil. We will all hoard it because it is better to hedge and just by keeping it get a 30% profit on the commodity that is that you're holding now. Now, our Minister of Trade publicly went and said that in February the cost of fuel in this country will hit 260. Yet the Emir of Dubai or the Emir of Abu Dhabi does not know the price of fuel 2 days from today, simply because, one, that fuel has yet to be mined and the market forces are yet to be determined.
Okay.
If people could predict that, they would
know.
You get, and that's the problem, that our execution is nonsense.
So coming in with the inability to predict what will happen in the future, then is enough reason for you to say nothing? Or what should have happened? According to you, what should have happened? What then is best practice? What do we do? Was it just rhetoric? And if that is the complaint across board, we saw from a reshuffle yesterday that maybe the president actually is listening and says, okay, you know what? Maybe not the best idea to have some of these things coming out in the way in which they are coming, and let me nip this thing in the bud and do something about it. And then Gafla Binvu, we have a reshuffle, and then maybe we wake up on Thursday morning and then we see some kind of change. So is it not telling of a president who is aware of the situation and then is doing something about it?
If your compound is not safe and you have got 2 gates and the watchman at the front gate is incompetent, will your compound be safer if that watchman is put on the back gate?
You just tell everybody you can only use the front gate.
The point I'm trying to say here is this, that the issues that bedevil this administration are not going to be solved by a reshuffle. Let me give you an example, as I was saying during the break, right? Look at the coffee markets. We have reduced how much coffee we're exporting by more than 2/3. Okay, by more than
reduce our export by over 2/3.
2/3 in the last 6 months,
which means that is 2/3 worth of foreign currency is no longer coming into.
Is no longer coming into the country. And remember, as we are losing forex, we are also supposed to pay a G2G fuel bill in dollars in a short while. So that basically means that we have to look at what distorted the market forces in coffee. And the truth is, it is the government. In fact, Rigiji takes personal responsibility for the price of coffee and the distortion of the market, because it is a docket that he has admittedly been the one handling. So the issue is not moving Aisha Jumwa from one department to another. It's still the same Aisha Jumwa. The issue is not moving Moses Kuria from one place to another. It's still the same Moses Kuria. Mudavadi is not going to work magic in foreign affairs. Just because there is an office of the spouse of the prime CS, it's not going to change anything. What needs to change is this administration needs to take a bath in the River Jordan 7 times so that the leprosy they carry can be removed. What is that leprosy? Lack of accountability, largest spending, grand plans without grand execution.
From where I sit, I think there's a phenomena that is going around the whole world. There's an upcoming phenomena called neopopulism. Remember Boris Johnson, remember Trump. Now our president came in and he was telling us, of course, he saw the problem was hustlers are not being looked at. So he said, your fault is the dynasty, or the problem is your dynasty. So that neopopulism thing really pushed him to make us believe that he had the idea. And that goes back to his policies. NYS, fine, you're putting all that money there. But what is the long term? After these guys are done with training, we are seeing them now crowding at 75, that place for army barracks, where those recruitment. So there was no long-term plan for these guys. Another thing is that when you tell us that there's hustler fund, very true. But I think other private sector was offering loans. In fact, the problem with this government, they are borrowing from local markets or domestically. That is where there is no access to credit. So what am I saying? The role of government, as we are, is not to create jobs, is not to give loans, is to just come up with policies, facilitate that the process of facilitate a conducive environment for business to thrive. Now they're coming in, they're trying to show us, we are going to even give you housing. For what? That is not your role. Ensure that the Mabatis, if the Mabatis are coming here, Kenyans can afford. Or are we going to manufacture our own Mabatis? If it is cement, what are you doing? What is your role in facilitating policies that are making even the manufacturer not push the cost of production to the buyer or to the consumer? So I think they are just distorted, and it goes back to what I said. Are we going to run a socialist country where the government is involved in everything, or are we going to let private sector do everything? Because if there were like 50 cement companies, the competition itself would make them lower their prices. So I think we need to allow market forces to come into play. On the issue of the reshuffle, yesterday when they mentioned Aisha Jumwa's position, it took me back to William Olentimama. He was always Minister of Culture, all those things. So I'm wondering, are we going back to where we were? Have we changed? Are we even thinking about new titles?
Are you saying Aisha Jumwa is similar to William
What I'm saying is that, is her scope of work the same as William Olentimama's job?
Yes.
Really, culture. But I think we've moved. We are moving into other things. Dynamism. Where is the dynamism? Where is the change? Where is the fresh breath of?
I particularly like that particular CS.
I have no problem with her, but is it really her scope? The scope of work is static. It's still stuck at William Olentimama's, time of being a cabinet or minister of culture and heritage. But it took me back to William Olentimama. So what am I saying? I think even government has been left behind. Kenyans are moving ahead. Kenyans are saying, you guys, you're still stuck in 1990s. We're in 2000. We are in the 21st century. So I think even how you name these ministries takes you back to.
But you raise a valid point, but let me ask the question. Are you saying that the activities of the individuals who form what we call government, are you saying these are not deliberately well thought out things that they are doing, and that they don't have a fairly good reason? We may not know the reason, but they don't have a fairly good reason for doing what it is that they're doing.
They may have a reason, but because it's a public issue, we have to comment and give our aspect.
Oh, no. And we should not stop commenting. See, I asked the question because when you are told categorically that this is what the government is doing, this is what the government proposes to do, this is what the government seeks to achieve, and then you sit back and give just a little time, usually just a little time, not too much time, the complete opposite happens. So then you have to ask the question, okay, wait. Are they like me who didn't know what was going to happen because they're the ones who actually enacted it? Or did they know? And if they did, then to what end? See, that's my question. To all these things we keep saying, to what end? Because if you were to look at it from a position of ignorance like the one I come from, you would assume that these fellows are setting a house in which they live on fire as they watch. Because there is the outcome of what the actions are cannot forebode anything other than something that will not be pleasant.
Pleasant to the citizens.
And to them.
Now, new populists want to make their friends, their loyalists happy. They forget that, they are the citizens. They think that when we come to campaign, we'll come tell you the same story. Serikali, a handshake is to blame. So they're forgetting that the voter is realizing things. The Kenyan voter today is able to reconcile that politicians really influence policy. At least now the problems you're facing, Kenyans are saying, we won't just be voting for someone, kumsaidia asikwe auction. Kenyans say, wacha tumurumie. Kenyans say, I'm voting for this person because I love them. Actually, the problem we have today is an eye-opener to Kenyans. But neo-populists want to, they're balancing. Now, if I chase Aisha or Kuria, what are people going to say? What is the mountain going to say? So he's stuck with people who he feels are not performing, but he has no choice because he has to balance the politics. He's forgetting that the voters, the people who got him there, want service delivery. They don't even care who is serving them. They don't care. And I think this is where Uhuru maybe came off as someone who thought out his cabinet, because he picked technocrats, people who did not even have vision for the next election. Now these CSs are on the ground campaigning for 2027. It goes to show also that the president needs to check himself. Is he controlling? Is he a one-man show? Because if for sure you're feeling satisfied where you are, you won't be looking for control and influence in a seat in 2027.
So let me ask you this question. It's to both of you.
Yes.
Do you really think, no matter how hands-on a president is touted to be, can he possibly know everything that I think you know what I'm going to ask?
Yes, it is, sorry for prophesying your question, but I was just thinking to myself that I wasn't going to say this, but let me say it. There are only two possibilities when you are the boss of an organization where you say you are smarter than those people you hired. Either you're delusional, and you think you can be a professional in forestry, environment, finance, energy, and then you are smarter than all those people, or you intentionally like to surround yourself with the clowns so that you are the only one to look like a king. Now, to answer CT's question, it is no compliment whatsoever to have a microcontroller in charge of anything, whether it is a father with the two children, a mother with a nursing baby, or even a watchman. A microcontroller is, by a matter of fact, a failed leader ab initio. What needs to happen is, and I really pray my president is listening to me, stop the trips. I really worry for his health. And honestly, I do. I worry for his health simply because Rigiji scares me much more than William Ruto. So I worry for his health. So, Mr. President, take a break. Stay at State House. Go to Harambe House. Do the office work. We imagine 2 years to the campaign, you can start campaigning. Why? Because it is impossible to make the decisions your wise brain can make if you don't rest.
Raila Odinga made a statement yesterday in an interview that he was in, and he said that, you know what?
The KTN interview?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
And he said something akin to what you're saying, Mark. He said essentially stop the politicking and get down to doing the work.
Yes.
And interestingly, because as he does travel, we are seeing certain things being put up as he does travel. As he goes around the country, we're seeing the establishment of the special economic zones. We are seeing the establishment of the county economic zones. We are seeing the establishment of things in county from county. Are you saying, Mark, don't look at me like that. Are you saying that as he travels, none of the work is being done, and he should sit in one place and ensure that all these things are happening?
That is exactly what I'm saying. If in my house, for my clothes to be cleaned, I have to be there. For the food to be cooked, I have to be there. For the bed to be spread, I have to be there. Then when will I go to the office? When will business be done? At the end of the day, the reason why there's a central command is that there should be a central commander. And the reason for that, the reason why you have cabinet secretaries and PSs and the like, is so that that work can continue. What the president should do, if it's special economic zones, he should launch the project, the first one, and let the other 47 be launched by his CSs. Listen, there is something wrong when, if you ask Kenyans which CS they know, they only know Moses Kuria, and they know him because he insulted journalists. This is the problem. We need to have CSs that talk. So, for example, if you ask people, if you go to a class 5 class and ask them to draw Eliud Owalo, they can't. Because he is not known to be talking about the ICT infrastructure and what is going on. So the president honestly needs to borrow a leaf from God himself. God the Father hides so that the Son, Jesus Christ, can be shown. That is how it's supposed to be. Leadership is not about grabbing the spotlight all the time, unless you're Donald Trump.
Drew, there's a question City asked. I think it takes us back to the role of career civil servants. The guys I mentioned, Kipras, those guys are researchers. They know what is best for this country. They have a budget to do research. So I think they need to really heed their advice. Something else, I think the president, we've always said that he's a political giant. That one we can never dispute. He knows his politics. But I think when it comes to delivery, he just becomes a delivery dwarf. I think it's being in office or staying still for him is so boring. He just wants to be on the campaign trail. But I'm happy that he's done something that Kibaki did. The president has now the government spokesman office, spokesperson's office.
The structure has changed.
Yes.
What we saw yesterday. Yeah.
I think someone told him, the more you speak, the more guys are saying, hizi ni stories za jaba. So let Kina Mwaura do the speaking. So if they say something and you don't like it or you need to retract, you'll blame them. The Kibaki used to blame Alfred Mutua, So that's a strategy to cushion him from making us think that he doesn't know what he's doing. And let me tell you, there's a difference between just launching an economic zone and having it running. What have we seen after he left, after the CS Moses Kuria left, then what continued? So I want this government to think futuristic. They're so short term, small things, they make us happy. No, we want to think, start thinking 2027, 2032, this economic zone that he went to Sierra to launch, is it up and running? What are the benefits? How many guys have been employed? But as of now, we're just seeing a structure. It takes us back to that Bill Sakaja had, the National Employment Bill, National Employment Authority.
Yeah.
It came off just we are focusing about the structures. But there was no, the hard aspect of it was fine. But where were the jobs? Did government create a conducive environment for people to be employed? So when you tell youth, just go there, you're going to get a job. How?
Where?
What are the modalities? So this government, I'm challenging it. Please think long term, think impact, think that Kenyans, and remember, Kenyans are not foolish. Free primary education by Kibaki really got us thinking. Yes.
Mark, you talk about traveling. Oh, sorry. CT.
No.
Just quickly.
Please.
You talk about traveling. So this weekend, the president then does go to Raila Odinga's backyard. There are things happening in that backyard on the border. We're looking at Sondu, and it doesn't look very pretty at all. Of course, there's a lot of rhetoric, and the question is, so what are you going to do there after having gone to that area less than maybe 2 months ago? Does this lend to what you're talking about now, that look, the time to sit and actually get some of this stuff done? Because the question now has come from different quarters, and folks are looking for answers to that. Where are you going? What are you doing? What kind of political expediency are you still trying to achieve? You are the president.
Yeah.
You are the president. Nobody's going to take that away from you, at least not at least until 2027.
Yeah.
So how about you get the job now done?
It is so critical, and it's something that I have seen before, because I've worked in political communication for many years, that sometimes there is a temptation to continue doing the thing that got you into office. Now, let's remember, this government got into office by doing brilliant political rhetoric. Irresponsible it may have been, because we've seen, for example, the KU land issue to the WHO that they fought is what they're doing, and a lot of the things, asking the military to do some of the work, they're doing the same things. But when they were in opposition, they fought it so hard. So they have carried on thinking that if they can just continue to do the things they used to do, then the people will follow. So, for example, when William Ruto was being carried in a wheelbarrow, dancing to a song, it was a good thing. When it was Sipangwingwi times during the campaigns, it was a good thing. The other day he launched that tricycle for vendors. Kenyans were angry. Why? Because the campaigner is different from the ruler. We must understand this. That in the court of a king there was a jester and there was a king. Woe unto you if the jester becomes king. Because you cannot rule by creating jokes, by creating opportunities for PR. Rulership is about settling down and making the tough decisions. And you cannot make those decisions inside a chopper, blades whirring over your ear. And then you're trying to make a decision about security, a sensitive decision about whether to, for example, I saw one thing that really worried me, just to show you how this PR thing can be dangerous. We have many special economic zones in this country that export clothing to Gap, to Levi's, etc. Now, our president went to the United States, did not meet the CEO of Gap, did not meet the CEO of Abercrombie and Finch, decided to meet the CEO of Levi. Now, if you are the CEO of a competing industry, you are thinking, are these guys going to get better services than us? Because a president should meet all the stakeholders. But because there was a hurry to show that he's meeting people, there was no thought behind it. So what needs to happen is our president, he's a brilliant man. All these politicians need to give the guy time to sit down, think, and execute what he promised. This PR, hula baloo of jumping and razzmatazz all the time is part of the reason we should be very worried for this country.
But let me ask you something, Mark, as well as you, Justina. If we were to generically think of promises that politicians make on the campaign trail, anywhere on the planet, what often is the likelihood that they will actually see it to fruition?
The answer is very interesting. Mwai Kibaki's biggest promise was free primary education.
That's it.
delivered.
Did he make any other outlandish promises?
No, he did not make many outlandish promises.
Yes.
This is why he was a bit responsible. Look at Biden today. Infrastructure was one of his big things. It's being done. So at the end of the day, if the politicians' promises are within the bounds of reason and they do not do that neo-populism that Justina here has well articulated, we should be fine. Because if you make promises that are within the ambit of your budget and the capacity of your country, you can do it. But if you make like Linda Mama for Uhuru Kenyatta, he delivered on it. But if you make outlandish promises, then you end up in the place where we're at. And that is why you find that this administration is also addicted to the continuous cycle of more promises. For example, the latest one is in a few years, Kibera will be no more.
10.
Wapi Makofi.
10 years. Hallelujah.
Yeah,
Look,
10 is
10.
a few.
We've actually moved from the immediacy of the promises
to 10 years.
Yes, we were given a decade. A decade is reasonable in my mind. Within a decade, who knows?
So as a politician, I've picked one thing. In all this, just pick one thing that you're sure you're going to deliver. Let guys say, this guy has over-delivered because you achieved the one thing.
But Justina, that doesn't win you an election.
That's the problem. So it goes back to the electorate. City, we always complaining, these people were nominated, they're not of our quality, they are not of... But let me ask Kenyans, how many of you are involved in political party activities? At least so that you're saying that I've been in this political party, this is my expertise, this is my area of experience, this is my interest, I'm going to champion this. Many, especially the middle class, don't want to involve themselves in politics.
You see,
so guys are just picked, we start saying they're their girlfriends.
Much as I hear people complaining about this president, there's one thing that he seems to have done well. He seems to have rewarded people who supported him.
Which again is a very arguable statement, because those of us who didn't support him were out of a job very fast.
Well, okay, putting it out there, all right.
No, it was gazetted. It's in the public domain. I was fired on National Gazette, so it's a fact. But you see, here's the thing, and we need to be very, very clear on this, that the problem we are having in this country is not that the president overpromised. That's not what Kenyans are angry about. It is that he overpromised, and then even after overpromising, we are more in pain now than we were then. If he would just have maintained the price of unga, the price of $1, the price of all of those things at the same tempo they were at, we'd be fine. You cannot overpromise and then underdeliver. And then it's like we are in this cycle of abusive relationships. So you marry me, you tell me my ex-wife was mistreating me. Then you marry me, then you mistreat me, and then you tell me my mistreatment is because of my ex-wife. How does that make sense?
What if it's true?
No, it's not. Here's the thing. There is no way that in a matter of months that the government of yesterday versus the government of today, the cost of living has gone up by more than 20% cumulatively.
You see, I agree with you, Mark, because in reality, the government is the government.
Yes.
It's not complicated.
Yeah.
But then, the question I would ask is, what then is really happening when you have a government that seems to hinge a lot of what it's doing on negating what the previous government did, instead of fulfilling the mandate that they themselves said they would fulfill? Then what does that tell you?
It tells us that it's an issue of ego and someone wants to prove that the other regime was not working. And I want to remind Kenyans that the government of Kenyans, we own it. Every Kenya has a stake in the government of Kenya. What we change is the administration. So it's incumbent that everyone who comes in should piggyback on the successes of the previous government, because when you come and show us that the other guy was foolish, I'm the one who's bright, you're going to waste a lot of time. And let me say that because the theme today was Dear Mr. President.
Yeah. Dear
Mr. President, you've told us about the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. As a person who owns a hardware somewhere, let's say in Kibera, I was buying cement last month at 600 shillings. Today I'm selling the cement. I'm buying the cement. Okay, that time I was buying it at 600 and I was selling it at 690. Today I'm buying it at 660 and I have to sell it at 690 because I do not want to lose my customers. Remember, I have a hand working, someone who works for me, and they pay them, I mean, 5,000 shillings. Why? They are just, I can't afford more. And then this graduate doesn't want to stay at home doing nothing, so they come work for me. If my profits are just 30 shillings per bag of cement, of course, will I be able to pay this person?
How many bags of cement do you sell in a day?
That's the question, because imagine now, even the circulation of money, Kenyans do not have purchasing power. So sometimes I won't even sell anything. So I can't even afford to pay even the hand. I can't afford to pay electricity.
Can you afford even the rent, the premise?
That's the thing.
So what's your message today? If you were saying one thing to the president today about what needs to change or get better, what would that be? Then we'll come to you, Mark.
What needs to change, Mr. President? Bottom up was a good agenda, but we need to focus on everyone in that spectrum. We want to look at the bottom, we want to look at the middle class, we want to look at the top guys. The top guys are the ones who are in NSC. The top guys are the ones who employ the middle class. And then Mama Mboga, when she buys her hustler fund Mboga of 13,000, they told us that's the limit. She can sell it to the middle class. And when the middle class is going to work, the boda guy will carry more guys. So the issue of saying you're empowering just the bottom guys, you're killing the other spectrum and you're pushing us back into poverty. So in short, Mr. President, work with everyone, have interventions that make sense to every person in this country, whether you're bottom, you're middle, or you're top class.
Mark, for you in 30 seconds.
Dear Mr. President, please go back to the government you had with Uhuru Kenyatta. Look at the things that were good. Copy, paste. Go to your computer, click, right click copy. Go to your new drive, click paste. After you paste, remove all the bad things and do good things. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. We become giants by the shoulders we stood on. Don't negate the past. And if you think Uhuru Kenyatta was wrong, remember, even a broken clock is right twice a day. So pick those two things, Uhuru was right, and repeat. Because this new thing you're doing, it's not working, Buan.
Mark, will it get better?
No.
Okay.
No, because we have a document that is low.
Yeah.
Right? The budget is low. And if in that budget you cannot see anything that will become better, then you're in trouble. Two, if the person who's supposed to make it better is Moses Kuria or Rigiji
Let him work
or Aisha Juma.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. You see, I've not said whether they can. I'm just saying. And the reaction already tells you whether they can.
Well, look, it's a reality. It's front and center for a lot of Kenyans today. And the hope definitely is that things actually do get better. We want to see what happens in the next couple of months. Maybe not a wholly pessimistic view, but the hope. Kenyans still remain hopeful at one point or another. Thanks for joining into this conversation. Justina Wamae, Mark Bichachi, thank you always for being here.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.